Anybody that comes out on a weeknight, 2 a week, and networks, meets other investors, these are the serious people. So I want to welcome you and thank you for coming out tonight. We're going to get this right, get right into the meeting tonight so that we can give our speaker all the time that they need. And so Cindy has, I'm going to turn the mic over to her. This is our VP, Cindy Seeley. Does a lot of behind the work scenes and stuff. So thank you, Cindy.
Thank you. Hey, I just wanted to share something with you all, and I think it's pretty accurate. I want to make sure people are aware. I'm in the mortgage business, and I've been a broker, a true broker, for 20 years. So not that I'm always accurate, but I know quite a bit. There is a supposed change in the federal laws coming into effect, and they're looking at in regards to housing. And I just want you all to be aware, because if this would happen, it's going, in my opinion, going to affect the housing industry drastically. What they're doing, they're saying, there's an attorney, that some neighborhoods are discriminatory and do not allow low-income families to live in them. So let's go to the extreme of a $500,000 or $1 million property. What they want to put into effect is be able to move low-income families and put $40,000 and $50,000, $70,000 houses in those neighborhoods. What that's going to do is drastically affect values. But they're calling it discriminatory because we're being judgmental. It's the rules with lending, you know, I mean, it's valuation. But just be aware, because sometimes these things come up and we don't find out about them, and they're not clear until after they come in, okay? Because that would affect, I'm thinking some of them that, you know, yeah, the neighborhood. Well, then it's discriminatory for a housing authority not to be able to say, I can't paint my house purple. I mean, neon. With lights. That would be beautiful. Fireworks. No, they're just talking about it possibly attempting to do that because it's discriminatory. And I've seen them do similar stuff like back in the 90s, since I've been doing this so long and I'm so old. They said back in the 90s that we were discriminatory and we need to start loaning to low-income borrowers. So they reduced the standards, and then we saw a few years ago what happens. And I'm not being judgmental, I'm being analytical, you know. If you only make $24,000 a year or $20,000 a year, you shouldn't own a house. If you want to own a home, then change your plan and make more money. Yeah. I'm bust bubbles. Sorry.
Well, along with that, you know, I don't want to, well, I just tell you, you know, this whole thing with the minimum wage. McDonald's, newsflash, McDonald's is not a career at, what is it, $7, $8, $9 an hour, whatever, a career where you can get married, have a family, and support all of that, you know? So the thing with raising it to $15 an hour, you know, it's not meant to be a long, lifelong career. It's an entry level for 16, 17-year-olds in high school, earning a few extra bucks till they graduate and move on. And it's the same deal. It's in an effort in the socioeconomic status to create a level playing field for everybody, those who are not motivated and those who are. You can't, you know, so I could really get going on that, but I won't. That's not our meeting tonight. But you do need to be aware of that as investors, you know, that may be coming down the pike. So.
Well, and here's my on the hourly. We don't pay our military that much. But I'm a passion for veterans.
So, yeah. So that's a whole nother rabbit trail we can chase. We're there. Okay, we killed a rabbit. All right. So anyway, we're glad you're here tonight. We're going to give our speaker all the time that they need. It's interesting, I tell you. There are so many creative ways in real estate to buy properties, ways to look for things that you can do, and everything about real estate investing is outside the box thinking. So having said that, I'm going to have Shaun come on up. This is our speaker tonight, Shaun McCloskey, written a book, real estate investor, and so we want to give you all the time that you need. Glad that you're here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. How y'all doing? You know what? I talk kind of loud. I don't know if you can turn me down just a hair. I'll blast everybody out of here. All right. We got a lot to cover here tonight. Man, she's like, shut up, dude. All right. Is that a little better? A little bit? I think you can turn me down. I'm pretty loud. All right. We got a lot to cover tonight. And right now, it's kind of a weird market, isn't it? How many of you guys have been, give me an idea of who's in here. Who's been investing here and have done more than one deal so far? Can I see? Okay, good majority of you. Anybody here done more than 10? Okay, good. Probably at least 40% of you, that's good. Anybody done more than 100? Okay.
Over how much time?
It's just over an end time. Yeah. That's cool. Cool. All right, we got some superstars in here. I'm going to share some things with you guys tonight about how the pre-foreclosure market works and how to make money in this, because you know the market's been crazy since 2006. Things went crazy with foreclosures. Now they're down. Now we're supposedly in this brand new hot market. And what's a hot market? A hot market is when there is less inventory available and the buyers all of a sudden start coming out and they start buying stuff up again. And next thing you know, there's this whole new impression that the market is changing. And all of a sudden people start overpaying for properties again. Values start going up. And do you guys experience that's what we're kind of in right now? A little bit? Yes, guys?
Yes.
Okay, a little bit. And so, you know, it went down obviously the last 4, 5, 6 years. Market drastically changed. But regardless of what the media is telling you, we are still in danger of another dip. And here's why. Interest rates right now are still at a 50-year low. I can go out and get a 30-year fixed mortgage right now for 3.8%. That's ridiculously low. What happens right now if interest rates go up 2 percentage points? Does that affect the value of houses, guys? Yes? Yes or no? Real life, yes?
Yes.
And I'm asking you, by the way, I ask you to participate because you'll remember more. I know it's cheesy, but you'll just remember more people, okay? So when interest rates go up a little bit, and they're talking about maybe going up a little bit this fall, if not maybe definitely over the winter, and who knows if that's true or not, but if they go up a little bit, what happens is people can't afford the same house for the same payment that they could 3 months ago. And so what do? They start to hold out just a little bit because, man, I could have afforded that $150,000 house 3 months ago, but for the same payment now that interest rates are 4.5% or 5% or whatever reasonable rate they go up to, now instead of being able to afford a $150,000 house for the same payment, I can only afford a $125,000 house. And so what does that do? It makes people hold out just a little bit, and then when they hold out a little bit, what does that do to the perception of the market? Does the market go up or down? The perception, anyway. It goes down a little bit. So the market is always finicky, and when it's finicky, we need to know how to make money in an up market or a down market. Now, those of you that have been doing deals for a while, tell me if you've experienced where maybe the past year or so, it's been a little more challenging to find deals than it was maybe 2 years ago. Has anybody experienced this? Yeah? Oh yeah, I heard. See a couple heads shaking. If you're brand new, the reason why is the market's starting to get a little bit hotter again. It's starting to. And all these flip this house and flip that house and all these TV shows are bringing out all these new investors, which is great. But all of a sudden you've got limited inventory. You've got foreclosures that seem to be a little bit down, which actually they're still higher than normal, believe it or not. But the perception is the market's a little bit hotter, so people are starting to buy again. Has anybody traditionally bought houses on the MLS before? Like as REOs and things like that, okay? Have you noticed the competition's gotten a little stiffer on REOs lately? Who's noticed that? Okay, good. The reason you notice that is because the perception of the market's changed. So we gotta know how to deal with that. And in my opinion, I don't care if the market goes up or down, it doesn't matter. If the market goes up, I might have to pay a little bit more for properties, but I'm also gonna sell them for more. Does that make sense? And if the market goes down, I might pay a little bit less for properties, and then of course I might have to sell them a little bit less too. But here's the key. Regardless of what market you're in, I'm always cautious of buying a property too expensive, because if I do and the market changes for any reason, can I get myself in trouble if I pay a little bit too much for a property and the property values go down? Yes? Yes or no? Real loud, guy. Yes? Yeah, and isn't that what happened in 2008, 2009? A lot of investors went out of business. And now, I don't know if interest rates are going to go up or not. I hear rumors and stuff like that. But I want to protect myself in case interest rates do go up. to where I bought a property so dang cheap that I can get out of it and still make money no matter what. So that's what I would like to teach you guys tonight. You up for it? Yeah. All right, so if we get through all of this, we should be done by maybe 11. We'll try to get you out of here a reasonable hour. So I've done about 300 deals, and I've done most of those here in Missouri. Now, I live in St. Louis, about 3.5 hours away from here. I live on the west side of St. Louis. But that's important because I'm going to show you guys how the laws work here in Missouri, and the laws in Kansas are very similar to how they are in Illinois, which is right across the street from me, and I do deals in both. So we're going to address both states here. That's important because when I started learning how to deal with pre-foreclosures, I learned from a guy down in Florida. Florida is what's called a judicial state, which is kind of like what Kansas is, and it's totally different than Missouri. So just so I have an idea, so I can direct my conversation. Who here likes to invest mostly in Missouri? Let me see hands so I know who I'm talking to. Okay, in Kansas, I'm assuming? Okay, it's majority Kansas, okay. Anybody outside of Missouri and Kansas? Okay, one guy. All right, cool. Where at? Milwaukee. Okay, cool. California and Florida. Okay, cool. That's a different market right now, isn't it? Yeah, it's real different. Okay, so now, why do I bring that up? First of all, the majority of what I've done since 2003 has been pre-foreclosures and short sales. And here's what I'll tell you. You do not have to do a lot of deals. There was a point in my career where I was doing like 70 deals a year. And I'll tell you, today I do very few. I do less than 10 a year now, and I'm just as profitable. Actually, I get to spend more of my profits today than I did when I was doing 70. The reason why is because I don't have the same overhead as I used to have. I don't have the same staff. I don't have this big, beautiful office that I got to pay for every month, all this stuff. So whether or not you have all those things you think you need to have, you do not need an office. You do not need a lot of overhead. And here's why. When we're dealing with people in pre-foreclosure, do they ever come to our office or do we go to their house? We go to their house. I went out and got this big, beautiful office, and in 3 years of having this $4,000 a month gorgeous office so I could have a nice professional environment, 3 people came to my office. And they were really impressed. That was it, okay? So now here, I also run a national coaching business with a guy named Steve Cook. Steve's actually done about 500 deals. He blows me out of the water. And that's important because I see patterns of things that work all over the country. So I know now what works and what doesn't. Because I get on the phone with these coaching students, and they tell me, hey, I tried something new, and it worked, or I tried this, and it did not work. So is it okay if I just show you like the best of the best and what works, and we'll forget everything else? Yes? Okay, cool. We're going to do that sometime. All right, so lately, this past year, I don't know if you guys know this, is anybody in here doing short sales right now? Anybody? Okay, only 3 or 4 guys. Okay, cool. Has anybody ever heard that short sales kind of suck? Okay, they do if you don't know how to do them. I'll show you a couple things tonight. The biggest mistakes that people make when they submit a deal to the bank is they submit a deal to the bank either without all the information that needs to be there for the bank to evaluate a deal, or, this is important too, they submit all the right information in the wrong order. And so what happens is, have you guys ever heard about submitting, like who's here has either submitted or heard about somebody submitting a short sale deal to a bank and the bank lost the offer? Anybody ever heard of this? Okay, there's only a few people in here, but notice the few people that are doing them have raised their hands. The bank did not lose your offer. The bank threw your offer in the shredder. Now, how do I know that? I just did a boot camp in St. Louis a couple of months ago, and I had somebody there called a loss mitigator. A loss mitigator, if you may want to write that down, I don't know what that means. Loss mitigator is the guy or girl at the bank that negotiates all these deals. So basically, when somebody's in foreclosure, and I want to go buy that house, I make an offer to the loss mitigator. Now, the loss mitigators are still overwhelmed with files right now. So what happens is, if they get a file and the file's incomplete, then what do? If you guys have a big old to-do list, and you know you can finish one thing right now, or you're missing something else on the other thing, which one do? You do the thing you can finish and cross off your list right now, right? That's what loss mitigators do too. So if you don't have your order done correctly and everything is there, or if you don't have it in the right order where they can make a decision real quick, then they actually throw your order or your offer in the trash. They're not supposed to, and they will not admit that. But this guy came to my boot camp. This guy worked for Chase for 7 years. And he came in, and we interviewed him for like 3 hours right there at the boot camp. It was awesome. And I even learned a ton. I've been doing this for a long time, and I learned a ton from this guy. So we've got a guy sharing all the bank secrets here at the event. And he says, oh, no. He says, you think they lost the offer, or you think... Here, who's heard it takes months and months to get a short sale approval? Who's heard this? It's crap. It doesn't take months. You know how long it takes for a loss mitigator to evaluate a deal? 4 minutes. 4 minutes is all it takes him to evaluate it, as long as he's got everything there that he needs to evaluate the deal. If one piece is missing, he's got to figure out how to get that one piece, or if the value doesn't come in where it's supposed to come in for us to buy it, he's got to figure out why is our offer so much different than the value they have on their books. So all of these are variables. So if you've heard any of this stuff, how they stink, it ain't that they stink, you stink. And that's the truth. So you got to know the bank's rules in order to get them to approve your deal. So now here's what's interesting. The banks right now are doing something that is, I've never heard of this, I don't know that it's ever happened in history, but they are actually paying homeowners to participate in short sales. And in case you're brand new, here's what this looks like. Let's say somebody owes this much on their house, and they haven't been making payments, or they're getting ready to go behind in payments, and they want to sell their house, but they either owe exactly what it's worth, or maybe a little less than it's worth. Does that happen? Yes? All the time. So in order for them to sell the house, they have to pay off the loan. But there's not enough equity to pay off the loan, so I have to go in and negotiate a short payoff with the bank. So my goal is actually to get that house for as cheap as I can, $1 if I can get it for $1. And my goal is to create as much equity spread as I possibly can. Now I got to do that legally, ethically, and morally. There's some ways I can do this, and it'll end up throwing me in jail if I do it the wrong way. So I got to do this the correct way. All right? But if you do it the correct way, you can make a ton of money on these deals. And by the way, if you do it the right way, I don't care what somebody owes. All I care for is what can I get it for. Let me give you an example. We did one deal where there was $186,000 owed on the mortgage, and we got the bank to discount that to something more reasonable. Any ideas what I could get a discount on a property like that? What do you think? Would it be good to get a 30% discount? Yes? Sure. Would it be good to get a 50% discount? Yes. Well, it depends what the property's worth. What if it's only worth $150 and they owe $186? If I get a 30% discount, that might not be even enough discount for me to get a good deal. So I got to know what the property is actually worth, and then I got to negotiate even better. $186,000 loan. I bought the house for $9,500. Pretty good discount, yes? I sold it for $60,000 bucks. I didn't do anything to it. Pretty good profit margin, yes?
Why would they sell it to you for so little?
Okay, why would they sell it for so little? Well, check this out. Here's what's going on. The banks are even doing something even more crazy. I got a student of mine, Kevin O'Lynn, in St. Louis. Kevin did a deal recently where the guy owed about 90 grand on the house. This is a lower end house, in St. Louis. And the guy owed about 90 grand on the house. And Kevin wanted to see if he could buy the house for like 15 grand. So he's going real aggressive with this thing. He was going to try to sell it for maybe 40 or something like that. It's still owed way more than the house is worth. So he goes in, he offers the bank 15. And he does everything I teach him to do. He has the offer submitted correctly in the right order. All the bank's rules are followed, everything. And so the bank comes back and they say, absolutely not. We will not accept 15 grand. We want 18. And so check this out. He gets it approved for 18 grand, right? And then the bank calls up the seller, the guy in foreclosure, right? And he says, okay, we want to give you some incentive to participate in this sale. Now, the seller was already being cooperative. And the bank says, we want to pay you to just make sure this thing goes to closing. And at closing, if you participate, we're going to give you $15,000, Mr. Seller, who hasn't made a payment in a year and a half. What if Kevin offers 18 and the bank gives 15 of it away to the seller, what did the bank net? No, because Kevin knows how to pad a HUD like I teach him. The bank netted about $600. Why would that happen? Why on earth would a bank even consider netting $600 on a It was $85,000 or $90,000 loan, something around there. I don't remember the exact number. Why would the bank do that?
Get it off the books.
Get it off the books, yeah. What else? Any other ideas? You can guess. It's okay to be wrong.
That lets them lend out.
They get to write off the loss.
Good. Yes, he said it allows them to loan out more money. But is that enough to write off like $90,000 bucks?
Yeah, write off the loss.
Say it again. Ooh, that might be interesting. What if the lender already made all their money on the loan because it was a government subsidized program where they bought the loan for pennies on the dollar anyway? Is that possible?
Yes.
Happens all the time. There's more than that too. In some of these cases, back in the day, let's pretend that, what is a local bank here in Kansas City that's just local? Commerce? Okay, they're in St. Louis too, so they're just like regional. But that's okay, they're just regional. So let's say like 8 years ago, one of you guys went to Commerce Bank and you got a loan to buy a house, right? And then a few years later, Commerce Bank, all of a sudden you get a letter from Washington Mutual, a whole new bank, and the letter says, hey, we bought your loan from Commerce, start making your payments to us. Does that happen? Yes? It happens all the time, right? And so all of a sudden now, Washington Mutual, anybody know what happened to them? They went belly up. And the government came in and did this hostile takeover with the bank, and they seized all their assets, and they took all their assets, and they sold all their assets to Bank of America at a deeply discounted rate. Now, we don't get to know exactly what the rate is, but let me just put it this way, discount. So, now, let's say that Bank of America bought a $100,000 note for 40 grand. Could Bank of America accept 60 grand as a full payoff on a short sale and still make money, yes? Absolutely. Now, they lost money on some too, so don't get me wrong. But they may have already made their money. That's a great observation. Also, in that, check this out. Is it possible that over the course of, let's say, 8 years or 10 years, or how long loans have been in place, is it possible that maybe when Commerce Bank sold the loan to Washington Mutual, and then Washington Mutual goes out of business, and then Bank of America took over, is it possible that maybe all the original paperwork is like lost somewhere? Maybe, right? It's likely, right? So they came up with this thing a few years ago called robo-signing, and they tried to fix it and it doesn't always fix it. So when a bank is willing to pay a homeowner to participate in a short sale, why would they do it? Because the homeowner might be able to sue the bank saying, prove to me, Bank of America, that you actually own the loan. And if there's no paperwork trail showing that, now here's what's happening. There's some lawsuits going on around the country where the homeowner's doing that and the bank can't prove they own the loan, so guess what the bank does? They write off the whole loan. They spend who knows how much in attorney's fees and lawyer fees and court costs and all this stuff to defend a property that they can't even prove they own, and they end up giving the house to the homeowner anyway, and they lost money on top of it. Does this make sense? Might it be helpful to know how that works? You want one of those? Show me 10 of those. That's all I need this year. Who thinks if you knew how that works, you might be able to make some money off of that this year? 3 people. Thank you very much. 3 people. Oh, okay. He was okay, good. I just wasn't paying attention. He's like, I want to smack you. All right, so we got to know how this stuff works. You guys want to learn this? Yes? All right, so, again, you don't have to have this big complicated business with an office and all this stuff. I used to have 16 employees. Today I have 1. I run 4 businesses, and my business can be, my entire business, all of it, can be run in 4 half days per month and 1 full day per month. It's by design. I want to introduce you guys to a little word here. Write this down. We've all heard the word millionaire, right? What is it about the word millionaire that attracts us so much? This country is so attracted by the word millionaire. What is it about the word millionaire? If we were a millionaire, what would we have? Taxes. He goes right to taxes. Good, good, good. Mr. Glass half empty. I'm just teasing. What would we have? Time. We have time. We have freedom. We have all this stuff. Right? I could do what I want to. I could tell my boss to take a hike. Who has a full-time job? So I know. Okay. Who in here, even if you have all the money in the world, would love to stay at your full-time job right now? Now notice that. All the people that raise their hand, and then only 2 people on drugs would stay up there. No, I'm just teasing. They like what I'm assuming you like what you do, yeah. Right? So money doesn't matter. But, you know, most of us, if we had more money, we feel like we would have more freedom of choice. And most of you, I just proved, would not even be at your current job if you didn't need the money. And so what we don't want to be a millionaire. What we really want is we think that money will give us life. You guys agree with that? And there's some truth to that, yes? So what we really want, write this down, is to be a lifeonaire. Lifeonaire. Corny, I know. But that's what we want. And so we think money's going to get us there, but I want to show you how to have both. Because what most people do is they go out and they work. Isn't it true that most, especially real estate investors, isn't it true that we go out, work hard, and try to build a business, and entrepreneurs are some of the worst at, like, you have this business and you get into the business thinking it's going to give you all this freedom, and does it always? Isn't it true usually the business is the thing that takes away your freedom? Because now you're the bookkeeper, and you're this and that, and sales and all this stuff. So we don't want just to have a lot of money. What if we make a lot of money this year, but we have to work 90 hours a week? Anybody want that life? For just a week? That's all? And I get $1 million? Sure. I mean, all year. Dang, I didn't say that. So yes, we don't want to work hard. So you don't have to have all the expenses and all this stuff, okay? So, why are you guys here tonight?
Learn how to make money.
Learn how to make money. Good. What else? Short sale. Good. What else?
Be entertained.
Be entertained. Hopefully, yes. Yes. Learn how to be a lifeonaire. Good. He wins. If I had some prizes right now, I would give you one. That's the perfect answer. I don't have any prizes. So. Yeah, why do you think I'm here? Teach us how to do it. What else? The what? Earn new students. You guys think I have some kind of a product to sell here tonight of any kind? Who thinks I have a product to sell? Say. I will not disappoint you. But here's what I'll do. I will deliver to you guys. I'm going to try to finish up around 9:15 or so. Is that cool? And if I deliver to you guys 1,000% and I really give you some good content, do I have your permission at the very end, just for a few minutes, to show you how you can take it to the next level, if you want to? Do I have your permission? And there's no pressure, no nothing, but I'll show you guys that at the end. Is that okay? Is it okay if I show you how you can have it for free, and you walk out of here for free? Is that cool? If I teach it to you and get you excited, who would do it if I gave it to you for free? Anybody? You don't even know. Somebody like, I don't know. It sounds like there's a gift. It sounds like there's a gift. All right. So here's what I'm here for. I am hoping to get some students that actually learn to do what I do, and here's why. I worked out a deal with this guy, Gabe, the loss mitigator, and we have this new business where he will negotiate your deals for you with the bank. Now, what I found is that the negotiation process is actually the most time-consuming part of the process. So, who has jobs again? Full-time jobs? You cannot negotiate yourself. When you negotiate with the banks, you actually have to do a lot of it during the day. So if you have a full-time job you can do that during the day, it's just too hard. You got to be able to answer the phone when the bank calls, because if you don't call them right now, or if you don't answer right now, they might not call you back, right? Or the next time you call, they might not answer the phone. So I put together this deal with Gabe, just this last year, where Gabe will actually negotiate your deals for you. So I have a greedy reason as to why I'm here. But check this out. Here's where it won't even cost you any money. Gabe will negotiate his fee, just so you know, maybe everybody write this down, is either 5% of the price of the purchase or $5,000, whichever is cheaper, whichever is less, okay? But here's how it works. Gabe gets paid by the bank, not by you. You don't have to pay him. So if you tell him, Jason, you say, man, I found a house. Here's the paperwork. I want you, Gabe, to negotiate this sucker for $100,000. I'm willing to buy it for $100,000. Gabe will go and negotiate it for $100,000. So Jason gets the property for the price he wants. And what Gabe will do is he'll set it up with the bank where the offer does go to the bank. The full 100 goes to the bank. But at closing, Gabe gets $5,000 of that, and the bank gets $95,000. Does this make sense? Yeah. Go like this, if so, yes? Okay, so it doesn't end up costing you any money. Is that a good deal, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and is it a good deal to have a loss mitigator negotiate all your deals for you?
Yes.
It's simple. So, and he's doing it right now. He does it for me. I don't even negotiate my own deals anymore. He does it for my students. So naturally, if I come here and if I train you guys, and some of you may negotiate your own, and that's fine if you want to be crazy and do your own, but some of you will actually go through Gabe, and we're going to make money together. Because I get a percentage of every one of those deals that closes, but again, you don't pay at the bank does. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to teach you as much as I can here. So, we're going to learn how to actually do less deals. Okay, you don't have to do 50, 60, 70 deals a year anymore. You don't have to be a slick salesperson to talk to the bank. Matter of fact, you don't have to talk to the bank if you don't want to. And you don't need to worry about selling your properties because here's why. What's the fastest way on earth to sell a property? Have somebody want it, yes.
Put it under
Is it, can they want it and it'd be priced too high?
Yes.
So what's the fastest way to sell a property? Sell it cheap. Let me prove it. I got a $200,000 house, let's just say. It's in mint condition in Overland Park. And it's beautiful, ready to be moved into. I got a deal on it for an investor. You can buy it right now for $190. Anybody interested? $190 grand. Not $1.90. Nice try. Nobody's interested. What about $150? It's in perfect condition. Anybody interested?
Yeah.
A couple of hands. Not everybody hands. Look at that. $120. Anybody interested? It's worth $200 as is. It's Overland Park, guys. $120, really? I mean, that's a nice area, right? What about $100 grand? Who would buy it? Now, this is interesting. Check this out. For those of you that are new or newer in the business, how many of you, be honest, are afraid that if you get a smoking deal, where the heck am I going to come up with the money? Be honest. Who's a little worried about this? If I get a deal, where am I going to come up with money? The money is the least of your worries. And new people don't believe me at all. Okay? But it's not. Let me ask you a question. If you found a deal right now, let's say it's worth $200 and you're buying it for $100, it's in mint condition. Is there anybody in here that would partner with a brand new moron, doesn't know anything about real estate? Is there anybody here that would partner with a brand new newbie and put up all the money for the purchase and you guys partner the deal on the back end? Who would put up the money? Who would put up the money? Raise your hands real high so we see. Okay, good. So there's at least 10 people in here with their hands up, including Scott. If I look back here at Scott, Scott's up in there. I was just having a conversation with him. He provides funding to brand new people. By the way, he doesn't care if you have an 850 credit score like a bank does. He cares about you. He wants to make sure you're not in the middle of a bankruptcy. But he cares about the deal. So how do you get money? You learn how to get a deal. So that's what we got to do. We got to get a deal. Some of you think you get deals, and you bring them to a lender like Scott, and Scott goes, that ain't a deal. And Scott actually saved your butt from getting in trouble from what you thought was a deal and it's not. So if you're newer, I might even recommend don't even use your own money even if you have it. Because when you use somebody else, they're going to tell you with experience, I won't even loan on that, it's not a deal, and you'll save yourself some trouble. Does that make sense? Now we do some funding too, but we do most of it in St. Louis, so when you guys need funding, just go see Scott or somebody like Scott here. Hopefully, there's more than one of these. There's people in the room right here that will fund your deal, so forget about the money, okay? So, now, two types of businesses we can create. If you want to go crazy with how much money you want to make this year, and you don't mind having a small staff, you can go crazy and do lots of deals like Jason Roberts. He's my #1 student. Jason, this is going back maybe 2.5 years ago now. Jason made $1.3 million net his first year, doing exactly what I'm teaching you guys tonight. $1.3 million net. But, let me tell you the catch. Jason had a staff of 3 people. He doesn't mind managing people and things like that. There's no way he would have made $1.3 million on his own, at least not in the Midwest. If you're doing deals in California, it might be a little different because the houses are a lot more expensive. But here, the margins aren't quite as much as there, okay? So Jason needs to do a little bit more deals here in Oregon, Kansas City than you do in California. But if you don't mind having a staff, and I'll show you how to run that here, then you can kind of build a big business, and that's okay. But that's not for everybody. Some of you want a small business. I'll give you another example. And I'll show you both of these here in a second. Some of you are like Glenn. Glenn is a student of mine up in Minnesota. Minnesota is a market similar to here, but it's colder. Okay? And Glenn does not want $1 million business. He might want $1 million, but he doesn't want to do what it takes. He's not a real aggressive entrepreneur. He just wants to make like an extra 80 grand this year, maybe 100 grand, and go on vacation more. Okay? He and his wife like to take it easy. Matter of fact, they are either there right now or they just got back from Machu Picchu, and they've been spending like the last month over there. He just likes things very simple. He doesn't have any employees at all. He just wants to make 80, maybe 100 grand this year. So I know how to train you. Who's in the room? How many of you guys, you don't mind managing a couple people, you don't mind growing something a little bit bigger, and you're a little bit more aggressive, you'd like to be more like Jason Roberts? Who's the people like superstars? Wow, okay, interesting. That's a lot. Who in here is more like Glenn? You just want to make an extra 80 or 100 grand this year, you'd be totally fine with it? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about those here. First, let's talk about what not to do. Okay, do we sometimes learn more from our mistakes than we do our successes? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to share with you a little bit about the first deal that I ever did, because I screwed up bad. And this is 03. Yeah, so this is was it a hot market in 2003? It was hot, right? It was getting even hotter. 2005, 6 was real hot. And I bought this house from an investor friend of mine. And I probably started out a little too high. I bought it for 255 grand. And he told me that I could turn around and put paint and carpet into it and sell it for 300 grand. Now those numbers aren't real big, but check this out. This is in a neighborhood called Chesterfield, which if you're familiar with St. Louis, it's a really nice area. Houses in this area were selling in 7 days or less. And it didn't have to be perfect to sell, but I really could make it perfect with paint and carpet. And so, then maybe not in today's market or whatever, but knowing that, would anybody in here maybe pursue that? Maybe. Some yes, some are going, no, dummy. Some are going, yeah, I would. So here, I'm in 255. All I got to do is put like 8 or 9 grand into it, and I can sell it for 300 fast. 7 days or less, right? So here's what I did. I didn't have any money at all, because I had just gotten let go of a job that I had for 7 whopping years, and I worked 60 hours a week for that company, and I got a whopping 3-month severance when they decided to let me go. So I decided to take, by the way, I don't know why they let me go. It was a pager company. You guys remember those? They were finally, I guess all the pimps and drug dealers on earth had already gotten the pager. So anyway, we were going out of business. Cell phones were kicking in. And I'm kind of showing my age now a little bit. But so that was going away. So I worked for them for 6 or 7 years, and I finally got let go. But this buddy of mine was flipping houses, and I knew you could make money with it. And I bought this course from a guy named Carlton Sheets. You guys remember him? Who has this course? Anybody? Yeah, man, I started, yeah. What was it called, remember?
How to buy homes with little or no money down.
No money down, that's right. Yeah, no money, which was perfect for me because I had no money to put down. So that worked out pretty good. So in there, he said, go find a deal and then you'll get the money. But in this case, I went and I found a deal, and banks at the time were doing 100% financing back then. And I went to the bank, and I went to go get a loan, and they said, no, we won't do 100% on this deal, we'll only do 80%. Now, why might they only do 80%? Maybe it's not as good of a deal as I thought, maybe, right? Because 80% of my purchase was actually a great deal, but 100% of my purchase might not have been a great deal. But anyway, so I got the 80% approval, so I went out and I found the other 20%. And I found it, of all places, I had no idea this guy had $1 to his name, but it was my next door neighbor. This was like the guy with the John Deere tractor mailbox, like a good old thing. And come to find out, he had tons of coins sitting on it. And I was talking to him one day, and I said, man, I need 20% down for this investment deal, and he put the money in. So I have 2 loans, a first and a second. And my first, you may want to remember these numbers, okay? My first loan was $2,100 a month, and my second loan was $500 a month. But I wasn't even going to own this thing a month as far as I was concerned. I was going to get in, fix it up, sell it in 7 days. We're going to be like 2 weeks, and I'm out, right? So I set up my other buddy, Jeff, I set him up, he's a contractor, I sent him up to paint the house, carpet, and all that stuff the day of closing. And I set all this up in advance. But the day of closing came, and for some reason there was a delay. I still have no idea why there was a delay. Does that ever happen? Yeah, and I don't know why it happened, but there was a delay. And so, long story short, I closed on it like 4 or 5 days later. So check this out. I called Jeff 4 or 5 days later. I said, I'm ready for you to start the work on the house. And Jeff said, I can't start now. I had to take another job. I can't just sit around and wait 5 days with my crew, so I can start your project now in 3 weeks. Now think about this. I was scared to death to use any other contractor because I'm new, I don't trust people, but I trust Jeff, and so I wait. Now in waiting, remember, what are my total payments for the out of $2,600. So what did that cost me roughly 3 weeks of sitting around waiting? $2,600. And I only got 3 months of severance in my savings account. So then 3 weeks later, Jeff comes in and he pulls back the carpet and the whole subfloor is rotten from a roof leak that apparently they fixed and you couldn't tell until you pulled back the carpet. But now that I know it's there, I can't not fix it. And plus, I didn't step on that area of the house when I bought it, and it was like a trampoline, you know what I mean? And so now he's got to replace all the underlayment and all the flooring, and there's hardwood under there, which is cool, but it was all destroyed. And so what are my repair costs doing? Went up, right? And so now, keep in mind, I'm so sure I'm going to flip this thing so fast, but the repair costs are going up and up and up. And the repair costs didn't take 2 weeks like I thought. They took 3 months. So now I got the first month sitting around waiting, roughly, and I got 3 more months of repairs, plus the repairs went up. See where it's going? Well, what's that? It's 4 months of sitting around and making payments, which is approximately how much just in holding costs? 10 grand. And that doesn't include the heating bill, the taxes that are still rolling and all this stuff. Right? And so it's starting to add up. And so now 4 months later, I put it on the market for $299. So that's what the realtor told me. It would be worth $299 all day long. And in the first 3 weeks, I had 72 families go through the house. And everybody loved it. And guess how many offers I got? I got one horrible offer. It had a contingency for them to sell their house first, and then the people buying their house had a contingency to sell their house first. So I didn't accept that one, but I didn't get any other ones. And so now I'm freaking out. And what happens after a house has been on the market for a month or 2 months? What do people think? When you see a listing right now that's been on the market for 2 or 3 months, what do you think? What's wrong with it, right? And so now 3 months go by and it's on the market. And now no more showings. No one's even looking at it again.
So is this where you live?
That is the greatest comment. No one has ever said that to me before. That's awesome. I would rather kill myself than live in that house. Thank you. That is a bad experience. And this is adding up, right? And here's the worst thing. I have to drive by this house every day to get to my house. So every day I'm like in a good mood and I see the house, I'm like, damn it. You know? Ah! And so, you know, the time's rolling up, so it's on the market for 3 months, and I dropped the price down to $289, nothing. $279, nothing. And here's what happens. I don't know if you guys know this. When a property's been on the market for a long time, you can keep dropping it, and it still won't sell. Why? Because after it's been on the market for 6 months, people are now going, why was it $299 and now it's $259 and it's still not selling? Something's wrong. How many want to look at it? And that's what's happening. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I put an ad in the newspaper back then. I know nobody reads newspapers now, but I put an ad in the paper and I thought, I'm going to rent this sucker. And so I thought, let me at least recoup some of my money. And I checked rents in the area. And rents were $1,600 a month. What was my payment? Yeah, so I'm only losing $1,000 a month now instead of $2,600. So, you know, you don't really make that up by like doing more of them. You know? But I thought, you know what, losing $1,000 is better than $2,600, and I don't know what to do, so I'll put it out there. So I put my ad out that said, for rent, make offer. And I had this guy call me up from Texas, And he came up, he looked at the house. It was the first house he looked at. He fell in love. It was right down the street from a school he was supposed to be teaching at. He had a year contract to teach in the school. And he said, I love it. I can walk to school. He said, it's fantastic. I'll give you $2,100 a month for this house. And I was like, yes! Never been so excited to lose $500 a month in my whole life. You know? So I rented it to him. And I lost $500 a month, but that's better than 26, right? And I moved on to my next deal. Now, over the course of the next year, you know, we're getting ready to renew, and his contract with the school got renewed for another year, so he renewed it for another year. He's like, yes, thank God. Now I'm starting to make money in real estate, so $500 a month is not that big of a deal like it was a year earlier. It still sucks, but it's not that big a deal. And so, you know, I rented it for 2 years, and then the third year he renews again. And it was like, okay, but now here we are 3 years to lose $500 a month. And at the end of the third year, he calls me up and he says, I got to move out because my school offered me a full-time position here now, and I got a big raise, and we're going to buy a lot nicer house. And I was like, okay. But now think of this. I started in 2003, and the guy lived there for 3 years, but it was almost like a year before I actually rented it. And so where did that put us time-wise? You know, like 07, 08. What happened to the market in 07, 08? Did it go up or down? So then when I sold it in a down market. And it didn't sell for $299. Would you guys like to see the numbers? So you can puke in your mouth a little bit? All right, check this out. So it was a nice place, by the way. We renovated it. It was nice. But in the end, guess what happened? It was vacant for 9 months. And so we lost $500 a month. I'm sorry. We lost $2,600 a month while it was vacant initially. So now you're talking $23,400. We lost that initially. And by the way, I should mention this. I didn't have this kind of money. Remember, I only have 3 months severance, and I wasn't like a big saver back then. And so what do when you don't have any money? I went back. I was so stressed out. I went back to my neighbor. I said, man, can I borrow some more money? And he said, nope. Figure it out. You better get my money back. Okay. So I didn't know what to do. I asked the bank. The bank wouldn't do it. I asked other people, friends, family. None of my friends or family has any money at all. So I went to my 401k. And I withdrew money. Anybody know what happens when you withdraw money out of your 401k? Yeah, do you get hit with penalties? Yes? Yes, guys? How much? 10%? Well, it's taxes. So what you get to keep is about half of what you pull out. It's a little bit more than half, but it's about half. I had $60 grand that I had saved up in my 401k from my last job. I took all of it out. And I only got to keep maybe 32 grand, something along those lines. I don't know the exact number. I had to pay the rest of the penalties and taxes. And all of that went to this. So that was 23.4. Then, remember I said the repairs were supposed to be like 8 or 9 grand. Those ended up being 20. Anybody in here had a repair that ever went over budget? So not just me. So that was 20 grand. So then I lost $500 a month for 3 years. And by the way, I won't put the fact that I had to replace the air conditioner and then the heater, and then when he left, all the new landscaping I put in was destroyed. I had to redo all that too. That's not even in there, because I don't want to make anybody cry, me included. So we won't talk about that. But then, when I sold it, it was a down market. So I had to bring a check for $26,000 to close it, so I could sell it. Here's something interesting. Over the course of all of this deal, my very first deal, I lost $87,400. How many of y'all want to be just like me? This is usually where people are like, and why are we listening to you again? Are there lessons to be learned here, yes? You know what I hate? I hate when speakers come and they just brag about all the money they've made on the deals and they don't tell you the real stuff. Can this really happen, yes? Yeah, there's people in this room who've lost money on deals, maybe even more than that. I won't ask you who you are. But it's no fun, right? I mean, for that, all of that time, I would lay awake at night. I would freak out. Have you ever been behind on a payment, or you're not sure how you're going to get yourself out of a situation and your stomach is just in knots? That's what I was like for 4 years, and I drove by it every day to remind me how much I hated it. The day I sold it, I had to bring $26,000 to the table. Was that a good day? Best day of my life! Are you kidding me? It was like party time. I am getting rid of this thing, and we were done. But there's a lesson to learn. Quick. Okay, getting there. I'm getting there. So here's what we did. Let's learn the lesson on this real quick first. What did I do wrong? I paid too much to start with. Yeah, what else? I heard some stuff over here. I didn't inspect the house. Yeah, man, that was kind of a problem. I might have been able to find some of that stuff. What else? Lack of education. Yeah. I had no education whatsoever. Now, I had paid for that No Money Down course, but most of it was still in the shrink wrap. And it really doesn't do much good there. Plus, that wouldn't have taught me how to overcome that anyway. It was a very, very basic course. There was not much meat to it at all, right?
Think outside the box with just that.
Yeah, think outside the box and then go get a deal, and that was it. I'm like, okay. You know, might be why I stopped reading it. Okay, what else did I do wrong? What else? Yeah, man, I had too much financing. Yeah. The first mortgage I had a reasonable interest rate, but the second mortgage I was paying my buddy 15% interest, which that'd be okay if it was a deal, but it wasn't a deal. What else?
Waited on the contractor.
Oh yeah, waited on the contractor. Why would I do that? What about the moron realtor who told me to list it at $299? Is that a problem? Well, here's why I can say that. Remember the 3.5 weeks I had to wait for my contractor to start? Since I didn't have anything to do, I decided to go get my realtor's license during that time. So I was the moron realtor.
Oh.
Why? Because I thought I could save a little money on commissions instead of hiring somebody who's a pro. And so I listed it for too much, and it didn't sell. So I made all kinds of mistakes. Here's the real mistakes. I used my own money, because no one was there to tell me, don't do it. Now, the bank would only give me an 80% loan, so they kind of told me, but they didn't really tell me. So I used my own money. Second thing I did wrong is I used my own credit, because now if the deal goes bad, who is in charge of making the deal good? Me. If anything goes wrong in the deal, I'm responsible for everything. Would you guys like to know how to structure your deals in a way that if the deal goes bad, you can actually get out of it with no consequence? That's how we do it now. And I'm not saying we're going to encourage you to do this, because when you get into a deal, I get into a deal and I intend to close on it, I intend to make money. But now the way I structure my deals is if I can't make money on it, I can back out and not hurt anybody. I can go back and negotiate my deal and so on. Let me give an example. Just doing a short sale with a student of mine, Jen Kuba. She lives in a little bitty town in Ohio. And she came to our event, and we do a 4-day boot camp. We do it typically twice a year. We do it in St. Louis. And so she came to St. Louis and spent 4 days with me. And at the event there, we actually teach people how to do their deals, but we actually do real deals right there in the room, right? And so she brought her deal to the table, and she had this beautiful lake house approved to buy from the bank. She had gone out without my training and got the bank to approve this deal for $122,000. She brings the deal to the boot camp, and I look at it right there in front of the room, and I'm like, Jen, you can get a much bigger discount than this. We restructured the whole paperwork, and I told her one thing that I want you guys to remember. Okay, you may want to write this down too. If your offer doesn't thoroughly embarrass you, you're offering too much. Right? Right? If it's not thoroughly embarrassing you, you're offering too much. So I said, you got to go back and make a lower offer, and here's your justification, here's how I'm doing it. We went through the whole thing. And she goes back to the bank, and she offers another offer. Now, I didn't tell her exactly what to offer. I just said, go offer way less. And she's like, what's way less? And I said, less than 60 grand. Now, she was getting ready to pay $122 for it, because she thought she could sell it for $130 if she waited a little while. That does not work. She went back, and now this is after she had already gotten the deal approved at $122, and she was already committed. But I said, listen, did you use this? Did you have this in the contract? Thank God she did. And she went back, based on what we talked about, and renegotiated. She bought the deal, check this out, $22,000. The bank had already approved $122,000, and she got the bank to approve $22,000. $100,000 difference between before she attended the event and after. And this all happened, by the way, this all happened, and she made the money on the house within 3 weeks. This is 21 days after the event. Pretty good deal, yes?
Yeah.
It depends what she sold it for. Her agent was telling her to sell it for $130,000 and see what you get. I don't do that way. I actually do the opposite way. I told her to list it for $99,000 because $99,000 was way too cheap. And I said, but don't accept any offers on it for the first week and make a little auction out of it. And so she put it on for $99,000. What did it do at $99,000? Everybody and their brother shows up at the house. They're all excited. It was a nice place. They're all excited. And by the way, this house didn't need a bunch of repairs. It was not a full-blown rehab at all. It needed nothing. And so she puts it out there at $99,000. Even if she sold it at $99,000 and bought it at $22,000, would that be a good deal? Yes? They bid it up and up and up and up, and they ended up bidding it up to $122,000, and she ended up selling it in like 7 days. If she would have listed it, by the way, I should mention it was a lake house, and she's going into the fall with the lake house. If she would have listed it at $130,000 like her agent told her to do, would she have maybe held on to it all through the winter?
Yes.
Sure, but instead she priced it too low. So here's the deal. You don't need to have, how many of you guys think that it would be very beneficial to have a buyer's list already ready to go so when you get a deal, you can sell it to the buyer's list? Would that be beneficial?
Yeah.
It's crap. You don't need it. What do you think you need? A deal! Any monkey will buy a deal if it's priced too cheap, right? If she put that out there for $99,000, she got people lined up. Matter of fact, at this first showing, they had to have the police there to direct traffic. Because everybody knew it was a nice house. It was a desirable area on a lake. Everybody wanted the place. And so what'd she do? They just bid it up. If we have time at the end, I'll show you exactly how she did that. That make sense so far?
Yeah.
So my thing is, buy it so cheap that you can offer it so cheap that if you end up getting an offer that you put it out there and you sell it fast, you're still fine. But hopefully they'll bid it up to even higher. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, so I also, in this deal, all the risk was on me. So finally, you hit the nail on the head, man. I didn't get an education. If I would have spent a little bit of money and gone and got trained somebody, might that have been a good thing, yes?
Yeah.
I didn't have any of that training. Matter of fact, I didn't even know where to find it back then. So you guys, the fact that you have a reel like this to go to every month is an awesome, awesome thing. Who here is not a member yet? Please join. They do this every month. It's phenomenal. They don't always have speakers this good, but this is a really good reel. Can you give Cindy a big hand for putting this on every people put this stuff together, and it's not just Cindy. There's plenty of people here to make it all happen. So, but that's why we have these stuff. I was totally uneducated. If I was smart, would it have been smarter for me to even go, what if I could go to some seminar and it was $10,000, but I would have learned all the lessons I could have avoided with this? Would it have been worth it to spend 10 grand on a seminar? Yes? First was 86, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. So now here's what's interesting. Remember I said my buddy sold it to me? Remember what I bought for? Remember what I bought for? How much? 55. Guess what he bought for? 205. And he sold it to me the day after he bought it. Oh. He made $50K off me. And guess what I found out? He got it doing a short sale. I didn't know what a short sale was back then. Matter of fact, a lot of banks back then didn't know what short sales were. When I started doing it, they had to teach banks what they were. And I learned about this thing called the short sale, and I thought, man, I'd rather be Tony than me. Now, that doesn't mean I want to rip somebody off and charge them too much for a house. But in this case, would you rather be Tony or me? Clearly Tony, right? Now, here's the thing. I think I'm still friends with Tony today.
Yes.
Really? He overpriced the house. You think I should still be friends with him?
Did he teach you how to short sell?
That's right. Hey, you know what? She's right. She's right. That's awesome. Good. Good, good, good. So I'm not mad at him at all. Now, I'll be honest, I was for a little while. Because I thought, man, how could he sell me that house? But who made the decision to buy?
You did.
I did. Now, I shouldn't have ever trusted Tony's word for the values. Do not ever trust a seller's word for what they tell you can sell it for. That was stupid. And maybe if I'd gone to a seminar, I might have learned that. Even if it's a friend, by the way, or family or anything. Because Tony wasn't stuck with the property if it didn't sell, right? But man, and by the way, Tony didn't intentionally rip me off. He really did think it was paint carpet. And he really did think I could sell it for $299. And he thought, he's a new guy. He doesn't need to make as much money as an experienced investor. So I'm not mad at him today. We're still friends today. But I learned to never trust the seller's numbers. Matter of fact, you may want to write this down too. Never trust the realtor's numbers. Yes. Not because I don't trust realtors and realtors don't know how to do their job. Many of them do, some of them don't. Who in here is a realtor? Who's a realtor? Okay. If you list somebody's house for sale, let's say you list it for $299, do you guarantee that it'll sell for $299 or I should buy it? Not works. So now again, she may have all the education in the world and believe it, but I want to believe it for myself. I want to look at the data myself and I want to make a decision. Because if the deal goes bad, she doesn't have anything to lose except for her potential commission. And that doesn't say anything bad about her. It just means that I want to make sure that the values are what I think they are, not just take somebody else's word for it. Does that make sense? Okay, good. All right, so now, right now, what I mentioned before, it's harder to find deals. You guys agree? Yeah, it's getting harder. So what I say is go after the deals that not everybody's going after. When I asked in the room before how many of you were doing pre-foreclosure short sale deals, and you had 4 people raise their hand. Why did only 4 people raise their hand? Because they heard some vicious story about how hard they are. No, you heard from a lot of people who suck doing them and don't know how to do them properly. If you know the bank's rules, do you have an upper hand? Yes? Sure. If you know the bank's rules and you submit the deal in the way that the bank wants to see it, in the right order with all the information, can you get your deal approved much faster? Yes? Of course. So we need to know how to do it right, not just say, well, they're hard because most other people don't know how to do them. I've worked, real quick, come back. I worked for 7 years to figure out what the bank's rules are because they don't publish them. It's like playing cards with somebody. They don't want you to see what all their cards are. But when you do enough of these, you start to see patterns. You start to see what works and what doesn't. But here's the downside. Just as soon as you got the house figured out, they changed the rules a little bit. And so we know what the rules are changed to. Number one, because I got Gabe, the loss mitigator guy, in-house helping me figure out, get on the call and they say, hey, did you hear that this bank's now doing this? And we update all of our stuff. And then everybody knows. And so when you guys are getting ready to do a deal, let's say, let me give you an example. I'll show you something real quick. Let's say you're getting ready to do a short sale offer on an FHA loan. Here's what I want you guys to do. I have this little manual here. It's a little intimidating, but don't get intimidated by this. You don't even need to read the whole thing. Here's what you need to use it for. I didn't write this for you originally. This is the manual on how I run my office. So, here's how it works. When you guys get, let's say you're negotiating a deal on an FHA loan. And by the way, you should know, there's FHA, there's Fannie Mae, there's Freddie Mac, there's all these different loan types. And so what got me even more confused when I started, this is why most people stink at this, is they don't know the different loan types. You have to negotiate differently, right? And so if you don't know the rules for FHA, you submit an offer right next door to the house you just got an approval on, and you don't get this one. Why did I get this one, but why didn't I get this one? It's because that one was an FHA loan, and this one was a Fannie Mae loan. And you don't know the difference, so you don't know how to get the approval. Does that make sense so far, guys? Okay, so here's what I want you to do. When you're getting ready to make an offer, all you have to do is ask the seller, what type of loan do you have? Ask them what they have. Now, a lot of sellers will know what type of loan they have, but many of them won't. So how do you find out if you don't know? You call the bank, and you can call them with the seller on the phone if you want, or you can get something called an authorization form, which I'll talk about later. And you just call up the bank and you say, what type of loan is it? And the bank will tell you. When the bank tells you, they've basically just given you all of the rules, because I've got the rules right here. So if I'm doing an FHA loan, I'm going to look at the table of contents here, and I'm going to see that to do an FHA loan, I have to turn to page 389. I turn to that page, and all of a sudden, it gives me the full-blown instructions on what FHA will accept and not accept on a deal. Is that slick? Would you guys use this if I just gave it to you for free? Sure. I just updated it in December. Brand new term. Sometimes the rules change every 6 months, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it goes a few years, but it's brand new. There's been no changes that I know of since we updated this. But when there are changes, we just updated. Does anybody in here use Dropbox at all? If you guys end up doing this and want to turn this into a business, I'll share my Dropbox folder with you. And that just basically means anytime there's an update, I change something in my folder on my computer and it automatically changes on your folder on your computer too. It just gives you the updated information. You don't have to go to a website. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It just changes. Okay? And I don't have access to your computer or anything like that. It's not some secret thing. Yeah, it's just a folder that we share. And anytime I change anything, you guys get the updates. Simple. Is that valuable? Yes?
Yes.
So you need to know the bank's rules. And everybody's going over the same deals. Not many people are going after pre-foreclosures because they don't know the rules. And so they try 1 or 2 of them and they go, well, I got 1 approved, but I tried 4 and only 1 out of 4 worked. And they don't know why, so they get frustrated and they quit. And then they try to go do what everybody else is doing, making offers on the MLS or doing tons of direct mail, all these other things. And they don't get the results that they were getting 2 years ago because there's more competition. So let's forget what the competition's doing. Let's do something different. And by the way, there's enough, if every single one of you did what I'm talking about tonight, there's enough business just in Kansas City, between Missouri and Kansas, there's enough for all of you to do probably 20 or 30 deals a month. All of it. And none of you are going to do 20 or 30. Maybe one of you will do that many deals. Most of you would probably be, how many of you guys, my average profit, to give you an idea, is about 30 grand. How many of you guys would be totally fine if you just did 1 deal a month at that kind of profit? It would be cool. There's more than enough to go around. And this is the low-hanging fruit. And if you stick with me, I'll show you how to get it from realtors, because realtors don't like them either. And I'll show you why here in a second. Okay? You guys have fun so far?
Sure.
Ready to keep going? Yeah. Okay, all right, good. All right, so we talked about rock bottom. Now, most of the calls that I do from my marketing anyway, this number's probably changed a little bit. That number's about a year old or so. It's not much less than this, but most of the calls, if I just do regular marketing to try to get people to sell me their house, most of the people that call me that are what's called motivated sellers, what you want is people motivated to sell. You don't want just retail sellers, but motivated sellers. So most of those motivated sellers are motivated because they owe more on the house than it's actually worth, and they can't sell it any other way. So most investors actually throw these deals away. They don't even go after them because they don't know what to do, or like I said, they heard something bad or whatever else. So they throw them in the trash. So there's going to be some people in the room tonight that hear what I have to say, and they go, well, I'm not going to do it, and that's fine. But then when you get a deal like that, you're going to throw it away. Would it be beneficial for you in the room to at least know how to handle it so that you can refer it to somebody like Jason here and say, Jason, you take the whole thing. Jason, if somebody just fed you leads, would you be okay with paying a nice big fat referral fee if you made a big fat check too?
Absolutely.
Sure. So even if you don't want to do them, at least know how to handle them so that you can make money off them. Okay? I make money off of all kinds of different deals. I don't do lease options at all, but I make money off them because I got a lease option guy that I send my deals to. Make sense? Okay. So now, and if you're Jason and if you play this smart, you can find people here locally at the RIA that'll feed you deals all day long. And Jason can find realtors too that'll feed them all day long too. And here's why. Any realtors in here ever done a short sale? One? Was it a fun experience as a realtor? Okay, he said none of them are fun. Here's why he said that. I'm curious, there's only one in here that's lower than normal. The reason he said that is why. When an agent goes to do a short sale on a house, normally they just list the house, negotiate with the buyer, get their check, right? When there's a short sale involved, now there's a whole other step. Now instead of just negotiating the deal with the seller, they have to go to the bank also. And think about this. Unless the agent is doing like 20, 30 a month, or has been doing this for years, do you think they know all the rules that I have most of the time?
No.
Here's how easy it is to become short sale certified as a realtor. I know this because the Missouri Association of Realtors asked me to create their course. They can go through a 50-minute course and they can get certified as a short sale expert. Now, I'm not knocking realtors. I love them. I was one for many years, but the training you guys are getting tonight is better than the training they get in 50 minutes. It's more educational than they get, and they're considered experts. So now they go negotiate a deal. They got a lot more work to do than a traditional listing. Do they get paid more for doing the short sales? No. The commissions stay the same. Now here's what's even worse about that. A lot of times the bank will approve their short sale if they do everything right by magic. The bank approves their short sale, and all of a sudden at the last minute the bank sends what's called an approval letter, so you can go to closing. It says, okay, we approve your deal, but then on the approval letter it says, I'm sorry, Mrs. Agent. What's your name? Michelle. I'm sorry, Michelle. I know you worked hard on this deal, but we're taking a pretty big loss. So instead of a 7% commission, we're going to go ahead and pay you, let's say, a 4% commission. And that's the only way we'll approve your deal. And Michelle goes, are you freaking kidding me? I just worked 6 months on this deal. You know, I lost 3 buyers because none of the buyers wanted to wait 4 or 5 months to get an answer back from the bank. And she's all frustrated, and now there's only 4% commissions. And so here's what Michelle typically does. As a listing agent, there's also somebody called a buyer's agent, right? So Michelle might list the house for sale, and typically she might get, I don't know, half the commission, and then the buyer's agent might get the other half of the commission, right? So what's half of 7%? 3.5, right? So all of a sudden Michelle gets the payoff, and she calls the buyer's agent. She says, I'm sorry, I got some bad news. The bank approved our short sale with your buyer and my seller, everything's good, but they cut our commissions in half. And the buyer's agent goes, no dear, they cut your commissions. My commissions in the MLS says I'm getting paid 3.5%. So whatever they cut it to, that difference belongs to you, not me. So if the total commissions are 4%, and 3.5 goes to the buyer's agent, how much does Michelle get? 0.5% for 6 months worth of work or whatever else. Does Michelle love short sales because of this? And by the way, this happens all the time. So is Michelle, as a realtor, motivated by these types of deals? Not at all. Might it be good? Could we make some money in this business if we found 1 or 2 Michelles that comes across deals like this? And just what if I said to Michelle, Michelle, if you come across a deal like this, first of all, I'll negotiate the whole thing. It doesn't cost you or the seller any money. Does that help? Yes?
Yes.
What if I said, Michelle, I'll close no matter if it takes the bank 2 weeks to approve my deal or 6 months. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be cool with it. Would that help her? Yeah, of course. What if I said, Michelle, even if the bank cuts your commission in half at the last minute, I'll pay it. Even if the bank won't pay it, I will pay it out of my own pocket. Do you think Michelle likes that? Yes? So now Michelle doesn't have to do anything but make a phone call. I'll negotiate the deal for her. I'll handle the whole transaction. I'll pay her her full commission. By the way, I'll make sure with the seller that there are no negative consequences to the seller. In other words, I'll make sure that if the bank accepts 22 grand on a $100,000 loan as a payoff, a lot of times there's something called a deficiency. Okay? Deficiency means, well, hey man, you borrowed 100 grand, you only paid back 22. That means you still owe us, Mr. Seller. The bank says that. You still owe us 78 grand. We're going to pursue you for the difference. Is that good for a seller? No. What if you could negotiate that away? If that goes away, the seller is wiped away scot-free. Is that good for the seller? Yes?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm going to show you how to do. I can do that in about, I'm totally guessing when I say this number, but like 98% of the deals, there is no deficiency. On the 2% where there is a deficiency, I even negotiate that where that goes almost away, and it's a great deal for the seller. And if it's not a great deal for them, then they don't have to do it.
Are you Gabe?
Am I Gabe? No. Either I will do it or Gabe will do it for us. Yeah, yeah. And that's all legal. It's all ethical. It's all moral, but you got to know the rules.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, so here's what's important. In these transactions, you're actually buying the house from the seller. You're not buying it from the bank. So if I'm buying a house from Brandon here, I'm buying it from Brandon. So this is why this is important. If I'm buying a house from the bank and it's already been foreclosed on, does the bank like sell their own houses on Craigslist, or what do they do? When the bank forecloses on a house and they want to sell a house, what do? They either put it on auction, yes. They put it up for auction on the foreclosure date, but most of the time it doesn't sell at the auction because they usually start the opening bid at whatever the loan balance was, which is more than a house is worth, so a lot of people don't even show up at the auction. Or if the loan balance was low, or if the bank decides to start it really low, there's usually in every market about 3 or 4 or 5 cash-deep investors that have tons of coin that show up to the auction that will outbid you no matter what you bid to make sure you never show back up again. So that's kind of a tough gig. But most of the time the bank takes the property back and it's now a foreclosure. And when it's a foreclosure, what does the bank do with it? They list it for sale, right? Through a what? Through a realtor, sure. And when a property is on the MLS through a realtor, who gets to see that it's available? Everybody. Anybody with the internet, right? Because Realtor.com feeds from the MLS. You can see anything on the MLS. So what does that mean? If I'm making offers on MLS properties, everybody and their brother can see it, including hedge funds, which we've been seeing the last couple of years, including out-of-state investors, including out-of-the-country investors. But if I'm getting people before they go to foreclosure, it's a little bit harder to find initially if you don't know what you're doing. And if I can find Brandon's behind, once I lock my deal in with Brandon, I don't have to compete with 5,000 other offers. It's me and Brandon, and I'm submitting my offer to the bank. So the competition is therefore done. Now I got a little competition to get Brandon up front, but as you can see, there's only 4 people in this room doing them. So there's not much competition. But I got a little competition to find him. Once I find him, there's not multiple bids going to the bank and all this stuff. Does this make sense? That's why I like this. So I want the lowest hanging fruit with the biggest profit potential. That's why I'm doing this thing. But I'm buying it from Brandon, not from the bank. That's really important. You guys get that? Okay. All right, good. All right, so I don't care how much Brandon owes. If he owes 180 grand, like I said, I care about what am I going to offer on the property, and what can I realistically and legally negotiate. Because I don't want to get myself in trouble. I want to do things legally. I don't want to equity skin. There's some things you can do the wrong way here. I want to create my own equity. And how do I do that? I use Gabe to create the equity for me. Gabe will do the negotiations. I get the deal. Gabe gets his fee. I get the deal. Seller walks away without any negative repercussions. Bank sells a house. Is that a win-win around? Yes? Sure. We're doing this way. So, okay, so I don't care what somebody knows, so check this out. This was a deal, another deal we did at one of the events. And she said our offer of 153 grand was accepted. The after repair value is $240,000. Is that a good spread, yes? Yes. Now, in full disclosure, she had to do a small rehab on this house, probably about 15 grand or so. But still, the number still works. So she said it would never have been possible at that price without you. Our original price was way higher than this. And apparently, God helped the loss mitigation department lose the offer. Now, based on what I said before, did God help the loss mitigation department lose the offer? She submitted it before she came to the training. What happened? It's in the strategy. Right. Yeah. She submitted the offer and it was not complete, and so the bank probably threw it away. I don't know, because they never contacted her. When she comes to the boot camp, she's like, I don't know what's going on, they don't respond to my offers, and so on, and then she gets this closed 4 weeks after she comes to the event. Okay? So again, she doesn't have the right paperwork. So you gotta have the right paperwork. Okay? Now, here's what we're gonna do. There's 4 steps to this, just write these down. These are simple, but you gotta do the same 4 every single time. Number 1, find a person behind in their mortgage. Now, is that hard to do today? Well, it's not at all. The reason it's not is because the information is public. Now, how you find it in Missouri is a little different than Kansas, and I don't have all the time to go into all of this tonight, but here's what I'll tell you quickly. Missouri is a quick foreclosure state. In other words, in Missouri, once the homeowner is behind, the bank has to do a couple things. But basically, once the bank makes public notice that the homeowner's behind, they can foreclose 21 days later. Okay? In Kansas, it's a judicial state. It takes a lot longer to foreclose there. Okay? So it might take 9 months for a bank to foreclose. Now, there's benefits and drawbacks to each one, but either way, this information is public. But it ain't in the Kansas City Star. It's not, you got to find it, and there's a number of ways to find it. I'm going to leave it at that for right now, because if I try to explain this, it'll take me a half hour. But once I explain it, it's simple. Bottom line, find a person behind on their mortgage. That's simple. Number 2, negotiate a discount with their bank. Or really have Gabe do it. And there's something called a BPO that you must be there for. That's called broker's price opinion. Write that down if you don't know that. Broker's price opinion. That's a fancy word for appraisal from the bank. The bank's going to send out a representative from their bank. And so if I offer like 50 grand on a house that 200 is owed, the bank isn't just going to say, okay, we believe you. They're going to send out their own rep from the bank, a BPO agent. Now this is typically a real estate agent or a real estate broker. They send that out to the house. It's a local person. So even though, let's say, Bank of America is located in Dallas, they send out a local real estate agent to give a value. Broker's price opinion. Now here's what's interesting. Notice the word is opinion. Check this out. Are there any appraisers in here at all? No, I won't. Appraisers are very, very valuable. But here's the deal. Let's say there's 50 people in the room. Let's say all 50 of you in the room were appraisers. Okay? And let's just say for a second that I give you the keys to a property, and I say, can you tell me, that's all I'm going to give you is the keys. I want you to go to this house, and I want you to tell me exactly what it's worth to the dollar. How many different, first of all, would I get the same values back to 50 people? How many would I get back? 51. Why 51? People are going to change their mind instead. Actually, I'm going to get back more like 150. And the reason why is because the agent or the appraiser is going to say, well, it depends. Do you want a quick sale price, 0 to 30 days? Do you want 30 to 90 days or a 90-day plus price? You might get a little bit more if you're willing to wait, maybe. But if you want a quick sale price, it needs to come down. So you're going to get different values all over the board. Why is that? What's the second word of BPO? Price, opinion. It's an opinion of the price. It is not fact. Which, by the way, there is actually one way to know people were sure every single time what a house is worth. Any idea what that is?
Sell it.
Yeah, sell it. That's it. Sell it. And by the way, it's not like when it's under contract. It's when somebody already bought it. That's the only way to know what a house is worth. Everything else, total guess. Right? Now, an appraiser or a BPO agent has an educated guess, but it's still a guess. Right? So they're guessing. Now, they're guessing with some background. Right? But it's still an opinion. So now, are there things that change the values or change the opinions of people? Yes. What if someone goes to a house in Olathe here, and they walk in the house, and it's a nice sunny day like today, and let's pretend like it hasn't rained every day for the last 3 months like it has, it feels like anyway. And let's say it hasn't rained for a while, and they walk in the basement, and it's bone dry, but every time it rains, there's 2 inches of water in the basement, but they don't see it today. Might a BPO agent or an appraiser bypass that and not include that in the appraisal if they don't see the damage? Yes? But does it affect the value of the house? Yes? Sure. So our job at the BPO, check this out, is, write this down, is to point out material facts that negatively affect the value of the house. These are material facts. We're not going to lie. We're not going to pour water in the basement and say, oh, it leaks, when it really doesn't. We can do this legally, ethically, and morally, okay? Or morbidly, like I said earlier. So, we are going to do this with the BPO, but now again, since the opinion of the BPO that helps us determine what we can buy the house for, is that important to know what that number is, yes? Yes. Is it important to have that number come in lower than higher? Yes. Yes. Let me show you something. I got a guy named Bob. He won't let me share his last name. We call him Bob the BPO guy. The reason he won't let me share it is because Bob has done 20,000 BPOs. He works for the banks. And in the last 10 years, he's done on average 2,000 of these per year for the banks. And you'd be surprised. He gets paid like $60 a BPO. This is a very tough job to have. But he does tons of them every year, so he makes decent money. But he's been doing this now for 10 years. He's done 20,000 of these things. And he knows how to get the value legally and ethically and morally to come in on the low side. Because think about this. Is it possible if I got all different opinions from you, is it possible that one value might come in 20 or maybe even 30% higher than somebody else's? Sure, it happens all the time. If you've ever done a deal, has anybody in here ever had a hard time figuring out like what a property is actually worth? Yeah, like what's this thing going to sell? Is it going to sell for $212 or $219? Well, how do you know? Yeah, sometimes like, is it going to sell for $200 or $280? Right? It's like if the comps are all over the board. When I say comps, comparable sales. If they're all over the place, it's really hard to figure out what a property's worth. So if that's the case, is it possible that a BPO agent might put the value in on the low side? Yes. Well, what if we know how to have an effect on that a little bit legally? Not throwing the guy $100 on the table. I mean legally. That's what this is about. This is a 50-minute CD, and in this, I drill the heck out of Bob, the BPO guy. And I say, how can we get these values legally to come in where we want them to come in so we can buy the house at a reasonable price? Now, here's what most people don't know. Let's say that there's a gap between what the value might come in at on this property, right? Or it might come in, let's say, 160, or it might come in 200. If we're able to get the value to come in at 160, the bank's doing the short sale will accept a percentage lower than that. And it's dependent on what type of loan it is. So if it's a conventional loan, the conventional loan, depending on what type of loan it is, might take 60 cents on the dollar. So it's 140 is what the value comes in from the BPO, and we're able to buy it for 60 cents of that, but we might be able to sell it for 190 or 200. Is that starting to build me a spread, yes?
Yes.
I don't want to confuse you guys too much, but that's kind of how this works. So this is really important. Might it be important to know what Bob knows, yes?
Yes.
Yes, this right here alone is worth gold. So some of you guys I'll give it to you free when you leave here. But I got to make sure it works. Okay? Now, number 3, find a buyer to cash you out. You got to find a buyer. If you want to flip the thing and make some serious coin, you got to find a buyer. But do you need a buyer's list? What do we say about that? No. Nope. You just need to have a good deal. Now, how many of you in here would rather, instead of making a quick dollar right now, you would rather have some long-term cash? Like you want more rental properties. You like the long-term passive stuff. Okay, that's fine. Then replace buyer with tenant. Find a tenant to cash you out. Okay. And by the way, can you find a tenant before you've even closed on the property? Yes, you can. Of course. You can have this set up if you want to, where day 1 you go to closing and you're already making money. Now, don't put the tenant in there before you close. But once you close, you can have all that happen simultaneously if you want. And then step 4 is sell the property, cash your check. But if you're writing notes, change that. I actually don't even have you get checks anymore. Wire the money to your account. Have the title company wire the money. Why? Because when they wire it, the transaction's finished. You get your money right now. You can spend it right now. In the last 4 or 5 years, has anybody ever heard of title companies going out of business? Yeah. A couple of them have. A couple people closed their deal, got a check at a title company, and then between the time they went to cash their check and it actually went through, the check was no good anymore. So get a wire. That's the way it's safe. Every time when you close the deal that day, you get a wire. If you make 60 grand, you spend 60 grand today if you want to. There's not a 10-day hold on your check and all this stuff. Okay? So now how do you fund your deals? We already talked about that. There's people in the room that will fund your deal for you. Scott will fund your deal for you. If you end up becoming a student of mine, I'll fund it for you if you need to. But the money is there. Stop worrying about the money. What do you need? Instead of the money, what do you really need? A freaking deal. That's right. You need a deal. So spend your time worrying about how to get a deal. Stop worrying about how to get the money. Now, there is 6 rules to the short sale game. Let's go over this. Okay, we're going to go over this super fast, because we've already gone over some of this. We got a market. Now, back up here. How do you get the marketing done for you? Remember how I said we get agents to find it for us? I'm going to give you two quick ones. I'm way behind. I want to get you guys out of here. So in order for us to find the deal, we got to market to find the deals. Remember how I said agents are great resources, investors are great resources. You guys want to know a free way to find deals that I promise you no one in here is doing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Two people. Thank you. I'll tell you in the hall.
Yes.
You guys want to know a secret way? There's really no way. Okay, check this out. Check this out. You get a foreclosure list, okay, which is free. It's public information. Then you take the foreclosure list. Every one of them has a name attached to the list. And what you do is you look up the name on Facebook and you send them an email on Facebook. And you say, I'm looking to help you stop the foreclosure on your house. Give me a call. Simple. Is anybody doing Facebook right now to get leads? One person. That's really surprising. It's almost never anyone. One person. The reason she's doing it, she's probably mad at me right now because it really works.
No, somebody told me like 6 months ago about it.
Okay, somebody told her about 6 months ago. So now, and it works also because nobody's doing it. And here's what the reality is. Look around the room real quick. Look around all the people in here. If you study statistics at all, only 1 out of 4 of you are actually going to even do what I've been teaching you tonight. That's why all this stuff works. Which one are you going to be? The one that, or the 3 that do nothing, or the one that actually does what I'm teaching you tonight? Which one? You're going to be 1 or 3? 1. It'll be interesting to see. All right, so you got to do some marketing. Now, there's a bunch of ways to do it, but I want to keep it simple for tonight, and we're going to keep going forward. So now, we already talked about the lender's rules of the game, so I'm going to skip that. But once you buy it, you can still hold or rent it if you want to rent it. If you want to flip it or wholesale it, that's fine. Here, instead of making like long-term money, who would just prefer to have some cash in the bank? Like, the sooner the better. Who would rather have it that way? Okay, that's fine. Do that if you want to do it. Is there anybody in here who likes to do rehabs? Anybody likes to do rehabs? Okay. Good. Anybody can't stand to do rehabs? Okay. One guy's like, oh, kind of not. If you don't want to do rehabs, don't. Just wholesale them off real quick. If you want to do rehabs, you can do them. But what's the name of the game in all of this? You got to do it cheap. You got to buy the deal cheap. I haven't found any strategy on earth. I've done everything you can do. I've done lease options. I've done rentals. I've done short sales. I've done owner financing type stuff. I've done, oh my gosh, you name it, I've done it. I can't find any bigger discounts than I can with this. That's why I do it. So use the short sale to acquire it, and then once you acquire it, you can do whatever you want. But that helps you to buy it cheaper. Okay? Now, finally, do not use your own money or credit for your first, at least for your first 3 to 5 deals. And do not do any big rehabs for the first 3 to 5 deals. Why do you think I say that?
You might find a lot of education.
Yeah, you're going to get an education real fast. What if, did my rehab pricing go up once I found the house, right? Once I got the house and all the repairs went up? That happens almost every time, especially if you're doing a rehab on your first 3 to 5 deals. Don't do big rehabs on your first 3 to 5 deals. Flip the deal, and here's why. If I try to flip my deal to Brandon, and Brandon's an experienced rehabber, and he doesn't want to give me what I'm asking for the house, is it really a deal? Probably not. So I'm going to find that out. If it's not a deal, based on what I've told you tonight, can I now go back and renegotiate with the seller and the bank and turn it into a deal? Yes. That's why I want you to flip your first 3 to 5. Or keep them as rentals, because you can kind of calculate rental properties a little bit easier. I would not do rehab to it. Okay? Now, this is interesting too. People don't believe me when I say it. My brand new students, people who've never done a deal before, where are you? Who's not done a deal yet, but you're like getting ready? Okay. You guys are the ones that typically do better than my experienced students on your first deal. Why do you think that is? Yeah, because you're just dumb enough to do what I tell you to do. The experienced people are like, oh, I've got a better way, and I'm going to tweak this and all that. I have tried everything you can try, and what I would encourage you to do is just try my way, and then if you don't like it, you can try your way. But check this out. There's a second reason, too, is that newer investors actually follow my advice of offering so low you're thoroughly embarrassed, and then they actually get an approval, and then they freak out. Because they offered so low, this is what they do. They offer such a low price because they're kind of hoping they don't get it. Because if they get it, then they actually have to do a deal. And then they get one, and then, here, the last 2 years, I have had more six-figure first-time deals, profits, than I've had since I've been doing this since 2003. From my students, I should say. And I've been teaching since 2007. Now, does that mean every student gets 100 grand on their first deal? No. I would, yes. I would, no, I'd be full of baloney if I told you that. It doesn't happen on every deal, but is it going to happen for sure if you don't do any marketing of any kind? Of course not. So we got to start with step number one. If you only do one thing, first step is marketing. You got to get the marketing. Okay, that's it. If you don't do that, nothing else will happen. Okay. Now, finally, you got to be able to sell the property once you get it. But we already talked about how to sell a property, right? What's the way you sell it? Sell it too cheap. Any monkey will buy it. Very, very simple. Okay. Now, this is Jen Kuba too. That one deal helped her a lot with this. But when she started with me, she had 3 kids, had a 4th one on the way. She was pregnant. And her husband was an engineer who had a great paying job, but he worked like 60 hours a week. The guy made 110 grand a year at his job, but he called it his golden handcuffs. Why? Because he couldn't leave. He made such good money, and they had a lifestyle that required him to make 110 grand, so he couldn't leave. So they had to run the business. Jen's got 3 kids at home, a 4th one on the way. I think she's got a ton of energy during the day. So can Jen do all of this herself? What do you think? I mean, she can, but she probably won't, right? With her husband, Andy, he's working 60 hours a week, plus commuting. Is he going to get home and, like, after a 60-hour work week, just have all this energy to go start a business? Probably not. But those of you that have full-time jobs, you beat yourself up because you think, not where I want to be yet, I'm not doing it, I've been wanting to do this business for 6 months or a year, or some of you did, yeah. And you beat yourself up for not doing it. Listen, you're not going to do it. Don't beat yourself up. You are not going to do it. But you can have other people do it. How are realtors used to getting paid? Are they used to getting paid their commission up front, or only when they get the house? Yeah, only when they get the house and the house is sold, right? So Jen and Andy, if you do what I teach you how to do, I've got some CDs in here that actually train realtors on how to find the deal for you. Excuse me, find it. Here it is. They train another realtor how to find the deal for you and how to answer the calls, because Jen and Andy could not do that. Now, let me ask you this. If you were making 30 grand on a deal, would you be okay with the realtor getting maybe 5 or 6 grand of that for doing their job so that you can do what you want to do? Sure. You cool with that? Yeah. That's all you do. You have a realtor do the marketing for you and have them answer the calls, and they'll do it because they don't have to do the other stuff that they hate, which is negotiate with the bank and do the short sale stuff. They just have one piece of the job to do. That's what Jen and Andy do. They have never to this day spent $1 in marketing. And yet in their first 11 months in their business, it's actually 11, not 12, they made 388 grand. They had been trying to do real estate for 4 years before this. Why were they finally able to do it? Because they stopped trying to do it all on their own. Does this make sense? Will you guys have some help if you, like if I train these people for you, will you allow some people to help you? Yes? Okay, all right. So, finally, I keep saying finally, I thought we were done. This business is fun, but it's not everything. So if we want to have a life, we got to have some help. You guys agree? Okay, so let's get some help, all right? We're going to do this by systemizing and automating a lot of the processes here so that you don't have to do it. You can have a life too. And I don't mean working off the backs of everybody else and making a bunch of employees or anything like that work 60 hours so you can go work 2 hours a month. I mean spreading out the workload so that you don't have to do it all. So if you have a full-time job, or if you're already doing something else that you enjoy, you can still make the money you want to make this year without having to break your back doing it. But also not breaking the backs of anybody else that you're working with, like a realtor and things like that. Okay? So we're going to systemize some stuff and automate it. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And then we'll get you guys out of here. So, How do you learn? How do you actually implement what we've been talking about? First of all, have you guys learned anything tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So how do you learn how to actually take this and turn it into cash, right? There's 3 ways. I've found that people learn 3 ways. Some people learn like they're very auditory, right? Some people hear something and they can actually make it work. Like musicians tend to be very auditory, right? Some people, not so much. Some people are more visual. These are like people who love to read. These are people who, you know, they won't ever do a deal unless I show them the paperwork from my last deal already filled out and the whole package already done, that kind of thing. Who in here likes to read a lot? Likes to read? Okay. I wish I could. After like 15 minutes, I fall asleep. But I can be a little auditory, but I'm not just auditory. I'm actually more kinesthetic. Like I'm more touchy-feely. I need accountability, or else I do nothing. Okay. For some reason, if it's left just to me to do things, I'm really lazy. But if I've got a big enough reason, like maybe even sometimes just being accountable to a coach or a friend or something like that, I'll get myself to perform more, right? So I'm curious, how many of you in here are auditory? Interesting. That's interesting. Okay. Who is visual? Who's very visual? Okay. Who in here is more kinesthetic and needs accountability? Wow, it's almost never like a third. There's usually one that is interesting. Okay. So it doesn't matter which one you are. If you're visual, here's what you're going to leave with today. If you're visual, use this. You can read it. It's not just like a regular old boring manual. It's written in a way that's kind of fun to read, and you can read it. But it's written in a very step-by-step manner that says you have to do step number 1 before you do anything else. Step number 1, the most important thing to find a deal is what? What do you think? It's marketing. Yeah. So in here, it's going to say do this and this. And I'm going to actually give you multiple marketing strategies in here, but write this down for me. All you're going to do is pick 3 of them. That's it. I'm going to show you about 20 different ones. That way you're not all doing the same thing in here. All you have to do is pick 3. That's it. 3. And you're going to pick those and work on them. Now, when the leads start coming in, whether or not your agent is doing the marketing for you, if you want to do it yourself, that's fine too. I'd actually prefer you have an agent do it. That's probably the smarter way to do it. But when you get the deals coming in, you're going to use this as the reference manual to find out what kind of loan it is. And then when you find out that it's a Fannie Mae loan, for example, you're going to turn to the page about Fannie Mae, and you're going to follow the instructions. And you guys follow instructions if you make 30 grand doing it? Who would do it? Okay, follow the instructions. Don't rewrite the rules. They're already in here. Here's my only rule with this. Just pay attention. My only rule is, if you know the bank's cards and you see them, don't tell them that you can see their cards. Here's what I mean. Here's how you can screw this up for all of us, and this is when they change the rules, by the way. If you know, let's say somebody owes 180 grand on their house, and you know the bank will accept 60 grand, don't offer 60 grand. Offer 60,800 or something close to it, but not the exact number. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I would rather you give up a few $100 than disclose that you can see their cards and you're winning every single time. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That would just be stupid because they would go, how did you know we're going to accept exactly 60,243 on this deal or whatever it is? All right. Okay, we're done. All right, that's it. So you're going to use that. And if you're more auditory, you're going to use the CDs and start with that. Now, if you're more auditory, here's what you're going to do. 3 hours a week. That's it. Write that down. 3 hours a week. That's all I want you to commit to. You're not going to listen to 50 hours of CDs. I know you're not going to do that. And most of you aren't going to sit and listen to it at a computer, so don't do that either. Just listen. When you listen, then I'll show you how to implement here in a second. Got that? Would you guys commit to 3 hours a week to do this business? Yeah. Okay, 3 hours. That's all you got to do. All right? Then, when it comes to dealing with sellers, here's how you're going to train your agent. You're going to give them my live calls with sellers, and you're going to say, do this. That's it. Do what I got up here. When it comes to dealing with the bank, if you're not going to use Gabe, you're going to say, do this to your negotiator. The right agent can also be a negotiator, but here's what I'll tell you. Don't negotiate yourself if you can afford it. That's not me being, I'm not trying to sell you. I promise you I'm using our negotiation service. There's other out there, but Gabe's good, man. He's really good. He worked at the bank for, I can't remember, 6 years, I think he worked at Chase. He knows his stuff inside and out. Quick.
How many deals did Gabe handle?
He has closed more than 3,000 deals. I don't know how many he can handle at once. He himself can probably handle somewhere around 80 to 100, but he's got a whole staff that can handle as many as you can throw at him. Yeah. So this is a full-blown business for him. This is what he does for a living. He's doing this for people all over the country. And he can't do this in every state, but he can still do it in Kansas, and he can do it in Missouri. Okay? He actually cannot do it in California. So sorry, but he can't. He can soon, because he has to have a realtor's license in California, but he doesn't have it yet. So you might have to give him a month if you're going to do deals there. Okay? All right. Now, as far as the forms and everything that you need, that's built in there too. Don't worry about the forms. I got $30,000 worth of legal stuff in there. Here's what I'll tell you about that. All my forms are legal in Missouri. I know because I live in Missouri and I do my deals there. If you're going to do deals in Kansas, it might not be a bad idea to just have them referenced with an attorney. Okay? I think all of them work there, but I don't remember if you're in Missouri too. Don't trust me. Get them checked out by an attorney. But that's all you got to do. Everything's there for you. Okay? Now, if you're confused and you need help filling out a form or doing any piece of this, there's a video for it. Most of you aren't going to need to watch the videos for it because it's really simple. But if you get hung up, you watch a 3 or 4 minute or a 7-minute video and it tells you how to do it. You with me? Good. I'll get you out of here in a minute, okay? Now, here's what I want to show you. So this checklist is how you're going to run every single short sale. And here's how I've got it figured out. See how it's in different colors here on the screen? You're going to decide which of these things that you love doing the best, and anything you don't love, you're not going to do. So if you don't love doing the marketing, which is the top thing up in green, you're not going to do that. Or if you have a full-time job, you're not going to do that. But you're going to have a realtor do it, and you're going to give them this stuff so that you know they're doing their job. Does that make sense? And then when it comes to negotiating, or I should say going on a homeowner appointment, that's going to be the blue. When it's negotiating, that's the yellow. This is the part that I like to do, which is going to the title company and closing the deal. Okay? If that's all you can do, then that's all you can do. Some of you actually like doing more than this. That's okay. But that's it. All right? Let's skip through that fast. Okay. So, everything you need to run a short sale business is built into here. Who would actually use it if I gave it to you for free? Be honest. Because it is going to take some commitment. It's not like you just wake up tomorrow and checks them. You got to actually listen to stuff and do it. Would you guys do it? Yes?
Yep.
Okay. Check this out. And here's what I'll do too. Let me do this. I'll get you out of here. Okay, so that's $2,000. But you said it's free. Hang on a second. I'll show you. I sell this for $2,000. I do sell these online. When I go out and speak, which is about once every 6 weeks or so, I don't travel the world speaking. I speak about once every 6 weeks, maybe 9, 10 times a year. When I do it, here's what we do. The BPO guide CD, we're going to include that in there tonight, okay? And so that's about a $300 CD, okay? Then, anytime you need updates, like I've got a student of mine here it's Bob, from 2008, right? He started with me way back then, and he saw me tonight, I haven't seen him in years, and he said, hey man, are there any updates to the course? And I said, yeah. He gets free updates for life. I do that with all my students. Why? Because the rules change, right? So when the rules change, I want to make sure Bob has all the updates. So now, anytime, I used to do this on a back office, on a website, like what you see up here, where you can log into the website. That's what Bob was asking about. He said, my login doesn't work. What can I do? Now I don't have you even go to a website. Now I just share a Dropbox folder with you, and it just automatically updates that folder on your computer. Anytime I update anything, it's already in there. So you don't have to do anything. It just does it all in the cloud. Okay? All the forms, all the videos, everything is built into it. Okay? Now that's $1,000. You go to the site, it's $1,000. Okay? Then, check this out. This is why you only need to listen to the CDs. You don't need to take notes. You do not need to listen to it while you're at your computer. Listen to it while you're running or on the treadmill or in your car or whatever it is. This is why. You guys are going to get this thing called MindJet. Anybody ever use MindJet? Yeah. It's awesome, man. MindJet. Isn't it awesome, man?
Yes.
MindJet is fantastic. It's not my software, but I built the whole course into MindJet. Here's what I mean. Which step of the short sales did I say is the most important? Marketing, right? So when you go to do your marketing, you're going to click this little plus sign up there, and it's going to pop up your options. Now, this is kind of dumbed down so you can see it, but look at this. It's going to say, okay, if you want to mail to a pre-foreclosure list, click this button, and all of your mailers will pop up. If you want to use something called bandit signs and you want to go around town throwing signs out, that's one of many ways you can market. If you don't like it another way, that's okay. But if you want to order bandit signs, you click the link right there and you go straight to a website where you can order my signs, the ones that I already tested that work. That's it. You click and you're done. If you want to mail to expired listings or do the Facebook thing, all the instructions are right there. So you just point and click. But you need to understand the instructions for it. That's why I just have you listen to the audio if you're auditory. If not, you're reading. Okay? Can you guys click? You make money, yes? Okay. All right. Click. That's it. So that is a $500 package. Now the boot camp, I do twice a year. I don't do it here in Kansas City, so sorry. I do it in St. Louis. You can come out and hang out with us 3.5, maybe 4 hours away. Make the drive and come on out. If I let you come to the boot camp, who would come for free? Okay, all right, then come. That's where we work the real deals. That's where we work the, when you have a deal between now and the next boot camp, I want you guys to actually do your marketing. And then between now and then, you can start to get your deals going. And then we'll do the live deals right there at the event. Quick.
Why do you need to market if you can access people who haven't paid your loan?
So when I see the people, when I get a foreclosure list, I got to get them to call me somehow. So I got to market to them somehow. Now I'm not like doing blanket marketing where I'm spending thousands of dollars. You can do all this for free if you want. But I have to get them to call me. And you can actually cold call them too if you want, but most people can't stand, who can't stand cold calling? Is there anybody that doesn't mind cold calling? Druggies again. That's what they think about it, you know? But no, you can if you want to, but you need to do some kind of marketing. So a lot of realtors have marketing out already, and they find people that are in foreclosure, so that's a great source to get leads. But that's another form of marketing. Even just talking to investors that get those leads and want to throw them away and you want to take them now, that's a form of marketing. So, but you got to find the leads somehow. Somehow you got to get the phone call, and that's what I give you a plan for. Okay? And there's, I can't remember how many marketing plans there are. There's more than 20 in there. But how many do you have to pick? 3. That's it. 3. Okay? Some of them cost a little bit of money, like if you want to do direct mail and mail to some of the people on the list, you can do that way. It's going to cost you money for a stamp and the letter and stuff like that. Or you can do some free ways too. Okay? So if you're on a budget, you can keep it simple. Okay? Now, by the way, I should mention, I used to spend $6 grand a month on marketing. I haven't spent $1 on marketing in 4.5 years because I got all 3 ways to do it now. Facebook is free. All right? There's more ways than that. Okay? So we're going to work real deals there. Okay? We're going to work deals where the profit margin are big because we're going to create them at the event. Okay? And, you know, I'm not saying everyone will have a $100,000 profit, but we've had quite a few of those happen right there at the event. All right. Now, finally, 1 hour per week is what Steve, this is my business partner now, he created his whole short sale business in an hour a week. This is no lie. If I had more time, I would explain this to you. An hour a week. Now, in his business, he did not make $1.3 million doing this. He made 80 grand in a year. That's 52 hours for the year, and he made 80 grand. Is that a good return? Yes? All right, I don't have time to go into it, but that's it. So, that's a sort of a little mini course in and of itself. And then the last thing before we get out of here is, would it help you if before you're getting ready to submit your deal, even to Gabe, would it help you to submit them to me to make sure that they look good before you submit them off? I want to do that for you guys for the next 120 days. This is time consuming for me. I actually give you my email address and you send them to me. Okay? But if I do that, would you guys do it?
Yeah.
Okay, if you do this, I promise I can help you. I'll either call you back and go over the deal with it when I get the email, or I have a program on my computer where I can shoot a video and I can grade it just like a teacher. And I can say, okay, here's what you did really good. This looks great. This looks terrible. If you're using Gabe, you can actually do that with Gabe too, but if you don't want to use them, then that's fine. You can send it to me also. Either way, I'm going to do that for you guys for the next 4 months. That is the only place I offer that is to my coaching students that pay $9,000 and have to split deals with me, and I just do that in St. Louis. So I don't even have it, but I will give you that feature that I give to them. Is that fair? Okay. All right. So finally, that's 15 grand worth of stuff. Now, I asked you who would do it was free. I got to get out of here because I'm running late. But you want to do something fun real fast before you leave? You guys have any energy left? Yes?
Yeah.
If you would do it if it was free, stand up. We'll do some fun. Okay, up, up, up. And if not, be seated. It may not be free. That's okay. All right, here's what we do. If you're standing, then to some degree you believe that this works, right? Because you don't know me, I could be full of it. So if I'm full of it, sit down. I always like to see one guy. Now, second thing, do you believe that I can help you through maybe at least your first deal? Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Okay, if you believe it, stay standing. If not, sit down. Okay, final question. Do you believe you can do one deal within the next 6 months?
7 days.
6 months. Could you do it in 6 months? If so, stay standing. If not, sit down. Last thing. Would you be willing, if I gave you all this for free, to use Gabe's negotiation service that doesn't even cost you any money, it comes off of the bank's net? Would you be willing to do that? If the answer is yes, then stay standing. If not, then sit down. This is not for you. Because I want to make money long term. Okay, then here's what we'll do. Quick story. I promise we'll get out of here. Sorry we're going late. Is it okay if we go a couple minutes late? I'm sorry. Okay. So, quick story. I'm in St. Louis. I'm at the RIA. This is about 2 years ago. And I got a guy that comes up to me, and he's totally stressed out. And he says, man, he says, I need some help. My wife's getting ready to leave me. I'm broke as a joke. Please let me buy your dinner or lunch or something. And I'll spend a half hour with me. I will do anything you tell me to do. I'll split deals, whatever you got to do. Just please spend a half hour with me. And my heart went out, and I said, you don't have to split your deals. Just let's go to lunch. I'll spend an hour with him. And so I went to lunch, and he said, pick wherever you want. I picked a cheap place, so I didn't make him go more broke. And so we went to this decent little restaurant, and I get there at noon. Supposed to be there at noon. He's not there. And 12:15, I'm getting mad. And 12:20, I'm walking up and leaving, and he comes walking in the door. And it's summertime like this, and he's totally wet, sweating from head to toe. He ran out of gas like 2 miles down the road because he couldn't fill up his gas tank, and he had to push his car the last, whatever it was, maybe a mile. And he had to push his car. And so my heart now really went out to him, and guess who bought lunch? So I buy him lunch. So I spend an hour with him, and we're not done yet. So I spent a little bit more time with him. And this is before I had the course structured how I have it now, actually. I've just changed the whole thing in December of last year. I made it much more simpler to digest. And so I sat down with him, and instead of spending an hour, it went 2 hours, and 3 hours, and then 5 hours, and then guess who bought him dinner? And we stayed, we had dinner too, right? And so at the end of dinner, he was like on fire. I'm going to do all this stuff. You're the greatest. I'm going to save my marriage. This is fantastic. And by the way, he lives in St. Louis. So I told him like all my secret stuff that I, for a long time, was not sharing in St. Louis because it was my own backyard, right? And I was scared. I had a little bit of a scarcity mentality. So at that time, we finished up, and I said, call me when you've done these first 3 things. What do you think those first 3 things were? Marketing. Yeah. So I said, call me when you're done with that. And so he goes out, and I'm assuming he's doing his marketing, and I said, call me when you're done. I never hear from him again. And about 28 days goes by, and sure enough, it's the next RIA meeting, just like this. And I walk in, and he's on the other side of the room, and I look at him, and he dodges me. And I'm like, now I got to know what's going on. You know? And so I walk up, I'm like, what are you doing, man? I haven't heard from you. What's going on? And he says, he looks at the ground, and he goes, man, I don't know if that stuff works. And I was furious. I didn't even ask to split his deal, so he's got no reason to lie to me. But I was furious. And I learned something in that he had never done anything that I sat there spending 6 or 7 hours, whatever it was, all of that time. Who wasted their time? Me. Because his time means nothing. But my time's valuable. I spend time away from family. I got 3 kids at home. I got a 6-4-year, 2-year-old. I'm spending time away trying to help this guy with his marriage, and yet he goes out and does nothing. Why do you think he did nothing? I learned something valuable in that day. What did he pay for the information? Nothing. So what did he have to lose? Nothing. He had a little bit of time, but again, his time means nothing. So I vowed in that day that I would never again train for free without some kind of consequence if you don't perform. So here's what I started doing. And I've done this ever since, and it works great. from now on, I've started to do this thing where I do give away the course for free. It's still $15,000 worth of stuff. Everything that we talked about is included. Come on, let's go. The home study course, the Bob the BPO, the whole, every single thing that we've talked about here, I do. But now what I do differently is I ask for a deposit up front. And this deposit you will get back as long as you meet those 4 criteria. Remember what they were? You believe you can do it. You believe I can help you. Okay? You do 1 deal within 6 months. And you use Gabe for the negotiation services. Why do you think I do it this way? Yeah, I mean, here, if I leave and come to Kansas City away from family and stuff, this is different because I have family that lives here. But if I travel about once every 6 weeks or so, I want to make it profitable for who? For everybody. Yeah, I want to make it profitable. And if we can make money long term, then it makes sense to me. So here's what we do. I have you put up a deposit. Now, if you want the course only, that's everything that you see in here, and you don't need any extra help outside of here. Like you don't need Bob the BPO guy, you don't need the lifetime updates, the MindJet package. If you don't want to come to the boot camp and you don't want me to evaluate your deals, now here's what I didn't mention too. Jason Roberts, my $1.3 million student, is starting some coaching calls in a couple weeks. Would it be beneficial if he personally helped you through your first deals for a month? Yes? I'm going to give you guys that tonight too as well. Okay? And again, all of that, if you want that, and I'm going to be doing a Lifeonaire event here. We just negotiated this today. I don't have dates yet, but you don't have to travel for this. I'm going to give you guys a Lifeonaire event. This is a 3-day, totally life-changing event on how to run your business with your life in mind first. And we're going to do that here in Kansas City. I'm going to give you guys that too.